Hey friends, welcome back to Jelly Bean's channel, where I'm your co-host Alita. This is the fabulous Jelly Bean, and these are my books. So we are starting this new challenge reading vlog type thing. So we are keeping it a secret this time, but in February I attempted the 28 books in 28 days challenge. There is no video for it because I felt like everything was working against me. My lease was up, my car stopped working, and I was very new at my job. I've only been a teacher since January, and it just felt like everything was crashing down on me all at the same time. So I had to let something go. So it was the 28 books in 28 days challenge, and because everything was going so bad and I'm so hard on myself, I kind of gave up on BookTube for a couple of weeks, but I'm glad to say that I'm back in the swing of things. Boop, boop, boop. I think I've been back, I only missed like 2 weeks, but for me that's a lot. Basically what we're going to do is for every day in April, I want to read a book. Now, there are some rules and stipulations. So say that during the weekend I get 5 books read from Friday to Monday morning. I'm not gonna make myself read a book every single day, because then it would be like I would be over the 30. So I just want 30 books. If that means that I read all 30 of them in one day, good, go me, but I'm telling you that's not going to happen. If I read more on the weekends because I have more time, so I get 3 books done over the weekend, so then I only have to read a couple of days during the week, or like finish a book a couple of days during the week, good for me. I don't care how I get the 30 books, but I will be keeping like a log of all the books that I read, and I hope that makes sense. I think it makes sense. It is April 1st. It is nighttime when I'm filming this. I wanted to film this at school, but it's just such hectic days at school that it just doesn't work out. So I have read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Going into this, I thought this book would be terrible. I thought it would be overhyped and just some young adult thriller that I was going to roll my eyes at. And I apologize. I am sorry to you. I am sorry. So this follows this girl named Pip, who is doing her like final project in high school on this missing girl case. So this girl named Andy went missing 5 years ago, and she was murdered by her boyfriend 5 years ago, and then Sal, her boyfriend, ended up dead a couple days later, and it looked like suicide. And she starts investigating because she doesn't believe that she doesn't believe that Sal was involved, because she knew Sal, and she's just like, there's no way. So she starts investigating and maybe becomes low-key obsessed with the case, which I was low-key obsessed with this case. I started it yesterday, and I read it in one day. Needless to say, 5 out of 5 stars. This, if you are like me and you thought, oh, it's a young adult thriller, it's going to be so overhyped, I'm going to roll my eyes at everything. There might be a couple, like, cliche parts that I'm like, stupid. But I can honestly say that this book shocked me. And I read so many thrillers that it's hard to shock me with anything, especially young adult thrillers. Usually I find them very, like, cliche. This one is not cliche, other than the fact that it follows a murdered girl. But, like, I mean, it's a thriller. And it kept me on the edge of my seat. So what I have been doing is, like, listening to the audiobook and then kind of hanging out in my library. And I would hear something in the living room and I would be like, oh my god, what's going on? Someone's trying to break in. Or my husband would come in my library and I would just be like, ah! I would be so scared because I was immersed into this story. I don't think that's the right word, but I was living for this story and I had the audiobook as I was following along, and it was just like one of the best reading experiences I've had in a very long time. It is April 2nd, and for this secret challenge, I finished 2 books today. If you hear that, I'm sorry. It is my hamster. He is running around, so if he moves the camera, that's what happened. The first book I finished this morning was A Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein. So this is the book that I had already read. I am interested to read Where the Sidewalk Ends by this author. I haven't read that one before. I thought this was the new to me one, but it's okay. I have read this poetry collection before, and I read it again this morning. I really like it. Shel Silverstein has a way of writing poetry that is, like, accessible to children. So it's very funny and very relatable to a child, but he also writes about things that, like, maybe children will not understand, and that as an adult I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's just really, really amazing. I loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And then the other book that I read today was Comfort Me with Apples. I'm blanking on the author, but it's okay because honestly I hated this book so much. I was reading on Goodreads, and it's like I got the retelling of Frankenstein is kind of what I was thinking it was, but online it was saying that it was some kind of biblical references and a retelling of a story in the Bible, and I'm not rehearsed enough. I'm not well versed in the Bible. Like, I know, the basics. Either way, I absolutely hated this book. I do not understand the hype for this horror book. It made absolutely no sense. There was nothing redeemable about this book. I would honestly give it 0 stars if I could. So sadly, day 2 is ending on a negative note. Okay, so it is April 3rd, and I have finished my 4th book of the month. I have finished Plain Bad Heroines by Emily A. Danforth. No, thank you. Next. I know that I'm the very unpopular opinion here, but I hated that book. I have nothing nice to say about it, and my mom always taught me if I have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, so that is where I'm ending that at. It is still April 3rd. I am clearly getting ready for bed, so excuse the pajamas. But I finished my 5th book of the month. So I finished I Stop Somewhere by T.E. Carter. I really can't tell you anything about this because the back is so cryptic, and even right here, it doesn't really tell you some very important aspects of this book. So Ellie disappeared long before she vanished. So you follow this girl named Ellie who is attacked at this party. And she finds out that she wasn't the first one to be attacked. And let me just say that if, please check the trigger warnings for this. Some of the trigger warnings are rape, violent assault, and it gets very, very dark. The very beginning of this, I was reading some reviews, and they compared it to torture porn. I don't quite think it was that bad, but it does get very dark and very descriptive, and it's like the writer is pulling you into this violent attack that Ellie is going through, and then after that she disappears, and you learn kind of what happened to Ellie, but also what happened to other girls, and it talks a lot about like rape culture and everything like that. So this was a very hard hitting. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I am going to unhaul it though. Like, it's a beautiful book, and it's hauntingly beautiful, and it was so good, but it's also so hard to read, and I own it on audiobook. So if there comes a time when I want to reread this, I will just read the hauntingly beautiful, poetic, heart-wrenching story on audiobook. It's been 10 days since I filmed for this vlog, so I'm going to catch you up real quick. I have 7 books to talk about right now, so I think I'm 1 day behind, but I'll do the math at the end. So the last time I saw you, I had just read I Stop Somewhere by T.E. Carter. I have since read Finley Donovan is Killing It, and Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead by L. Cosimano. I really enjoyed both of them. I thought that I wouldn't like them and that they would be like overhyped and that I'd read the first one and just be like done. I gave the first Finley Donovan 5 stars. It is top of my wish list right now because I listened to it on audio. Amazing audiobook. It's about this writer who is also a mom who is going through like a divorce, and so you have her like mom life and her ex-husband, you know, that dynamic was interesting. Then she meets her publicist, her agent, at Panera Bread for lunch, and this woman overhears her conversation about her newest book and like the synopsis of it, but the other woman confuses Finley Donovan as a hit woman, and maybe she drops money in her purse and a note saying kill this person, who might happen to be the restaurant patron's husband. And things get sticky and weird and so freaking funny, and the Finley Donovan is killing it. Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead was a whole lot of fun. I didn't like it as much as the first one, but I still had a whole lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars out of 5 stars, so that's pretty good. Then there's From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by someone. I mostly got this off the recommendation of one of my besties, Michael, and I can see how someone would love this book, especially if you read it when you were middle grade age. I did not read it when I was middle grade age, so I found it kind of boring, but it's about these 2 siblings that run away to the museum. It's a historical fiction, and it was cute and kind of fun, but I just didn't connect with it, so I unhauled that book, and I haven't gone through my shelves yet, but I think I'm gonna go through and get rid of all my middle grade. Then I read The Arrangement by Robin Harding. By the way, Robin Harding is becoming one of my favorite thriller authors ever. I know it might be kind of too soon to say that because I've only read 2 books from her, but I absolutely love her writing style. So this follows a girl named Nat who is in art school in New York, and she's barely making it by because, you know, student debt, rent, and she has like 2 roommates in this very small apartment, and just things seem to be piling up for Nat, and somehow she comes across this opportunity in which she gets a sugar daddy through this website, and she becomes a sugar baby. So basically, these men have like Nat and some other characters along the way meet them for dinners, and they go on dates, and sometimes they sleep with them, and they get paid for it. And it was an interesting synopsis on like sex work and woman's right to choose in particular, and it really got me thinking, which typically I like books that make me feel things. This was twisted and dark, but I didn't really feel much. I was just like, oh my gosh, like thinking a lot, and also it had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. And usually I don't like books that follow wealthy main characters. I mean, Nat's not a wealthy main character, but the guys or guy that she hooks up with, or like sugar babies with, I'm not sure if that's a real thing or like a real verb, but I'm using it as a verb. Yeah, so it was really interesting. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. I don't know how I feel about this book. So you follow Gavin as he tries to win his wife back because they're all on the brink of divorce. So he starts reading like these historical fiction books, romances, to like woo his wife, learn how she thinks and learn how to woo her. And it was funny, And there were moments in here that I was like just really eating it up, and I really, really love the romance between Gavin and his wife. Oh my god, Thea. Thea? Yes, Thea. Thea and Gavin are such an iconic couple. They are just so cute together, and it was so like realistic. I've talked about this in other videos, but it was like a realistic romance. It wasn't like, oh my god, I'm gonna grand gesture her all the time and like we're gonna be amazing like all the time. No, they're at the end of their marriage, or at least they think they're at the end of their marriage, and this guy is making one last attempt because he thinks that Thea is the love of his life. And it was just so sweet, so funny, and the part that I didn't like about this book was the actual, you get clips of the historical fiction in there. I didn't like that part, but I'm not a historical romance reader, so it makes sense that I wouldn't like it. I still absolutely adored this book. I'm giving it 4 stars, but I'm going to keep it on my shelves for reread someday. Then I read Hunting Charles Manson by Liz Well, which was a must-read for me this year. I don't rate nonfiction, but if I did, this would not be a good one. I do not recommend it. The writing is very dry. And also, maybe it's just me because I've read so much Charles Manson literature that maybe none of it surprises me anymore, but I really felt like the writing just dragged on and on and on, and like it was just very, very dry. And then yesterday I finished The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa, which was so adorable. Like I literally read this book in like 17 hours, and I just didn't want to stop listening to it. I couldn't put it down. I really want a physical copy of this book. You guys are gonna hate me because I don't even remember her name anymore, and it was like 5 seconds ago that I read it. Salone. Okay. Dean and Salone. Okay, so Salone shows up at this wedding that her cousin is planning, and she overhears something happens at that wedding, and pretty much Salone accidentally crashes the wedding, and she stops them from getting married. And then Salone and Dean they start this fake dating relationship. And you know what I say about fake dating? There's a very thin line between fake and real. Oh, but you know, ultimately they do fall in love, and it was amazing, and I highly, highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars, clearly. Let me see how many books. Okay, so it is the next day, and I finished Fever 1793 by Laurie Howells Anderson. This is a book that I read in middle school. Yeah, I think in middle school or late elementary. And I loved it when I was a kid, but it doesn't hold the same punch that it did when I was a kid. So you follow Maddie, who is living through the yellow fever in Philadelphia in 1793. This is her story, and it's supposed to be very hard-hitting, and I just didn't feel it as much as when I was a kid, so I will always have a very special place in my heart for this book. but I think I'm going to unhaul it at the end of the month. I think I'm only going to give it 3 stars. It was like fine. It just didn't resonate with me as much now that I'm older. But if you want a very powerful story about the yellow fever, that maybe the reason I didn't like it as much this time is because of COVID. I know a lot of people really like reading the representation of COVID in other books. This one was way too reminiscent of COVID for me to appreciate it. I never thought that I would live through something like that in my lifetime, and it scares me. Even though I know we're at the tail end of the pandemic, it still scares me so bad. So, I think that was my problem with it. But I do like this book, and you will fall in love with Maddie. She is one of the best main characters in a book that I've ever read. It is the 15th of April, and I have 2 more books to add to my list. So I think I'm only 1 day behind now, but I'll double check tomorrow for you because it's very late and I'm going to bed. But I really wanted to do this. So I reread Speak by Laurie Howells Anderson. I read this when I was in middle school or high school, or both. I don't remember. I think both, because I've read this book several times. So I'm kind of doing this thing where I am trying to read some of my childhood favorites to see if they still stand up. This one is the first one that definitely still stands up. It is still one of my absolute favorites. So if you've never read Speak, you follow this girl who refuses to talk. She won't speak a word to anyone. And she starts doing really poorly in school, and there are a lot of signs that something is wrong, and no one can figure out what is going on with her until it's too late. So there's a lot of mental health rep. There's rape and sexual assault, and there's representation of like how society sees the victims in these crimes, and it's very, very hard-hitting, and it's one of my all-time favorites that discusses something as huge as this and as hard-hitting as this. I read Life's Too Short by Abby Jimsey. I know I mispronounced that name. That is a romance novel, which, by the way, if you are looking for a romance recommendation, Abby Jimsey, I'm very sorry. She's a great author. So if you're like me and like I'm new to the romance realm because I feel like romance is depicted so like grand gesture after grand gesture after grand gesture, and it's not realistic. I want more realistic romance, and Abby writes amazing realistic romances. So she wrote The Friend Zone, which is one of my favorites, but it's about this girl who, it's super important for her to become a mom, but for medical reasons she can't, and she doesn't tell her best friend that she's kind of looking at as potentially someone more than a best friend. Because she doesn't want to scare him away, so she kind of friend zones him. Hence the name, the friend zone. Then Life's Too Short follows a YouTuber named Vanessa, and it was really awesome to see a YouTuber in this. And her life motto is basically go do all the scary things. That is my life motto too, because you don't know when it could be over. Like, I've been so close to death so many times in my life that nothing scares me about it. And I felt represented with Vanessa. She has a different kind of disorder that there's no cure for, and it's a very unexpected romance between her and her boo. And it was just so utterly sweet, and I just ate it up. But it was so realistic, because there was like she has ALS, I think it's ALS, and there's no cure for it. And her boyfriend, her love interest, is like trying to get her to fight for her life and go on all these treatments and everything, and she is just like, no, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to waste away what little time I might have left on this planet by trying to fight and getting sick. And like, I understood that so much in the moment in the book, and it was so hard-hitting. Her books are more than just fluffy romances. Yeah, there's a romance in them, but they are so hard-hitting, and they are more realistic romances. They're not like grand gesture after grand gesture after grand gesture, although some would argue there might be a couple of grander gestures in this book, but in this book it made sense to happen. I can't say anything else, but I absolutely loved both books, so both are getting 5 stars. I will see you here in a couple seconds. It is April 16th, and I finished another book. I finished Bonfire by Ritter. A few years ago, me and my friends were supposed to buddy read this, and I owned it on Kindle. I DNF'd it very early on, so I finally went back and finished it. I actually started over because it's been a couple of years, and I kind of wish I would have just left it as a DNF. It had so much potential, but it just didn't work for me. It's a mystery thriller in which, like, nothing really thrilling happens till the very end. And honestly, I just didn't feel invested. I didn't care about the characters, and I just wanted the story to be over. I think I'm the very unpopular opinion here, though, because my friends absolutely loved this book when we read it. But, yeah. It is the 17th of April, and I'm 90% sure this is my 16th book of the month. Will we make it to 30 books this month? I certainly hope so. So I finished One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of my newest books, one of my most recent purchases, and I am so glad that I tried a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I was under the impression, like, I'm not interested in Daisy Jones and the Six or Malibu Rising, or kind of interested in the seven husbands of, I don't know. You know what book I'm talking about. I'll put it up here. those ones are kind of like celebrities and historical fictions, and not really my cup of tea. But I saw this at my local independent bookstore, and I decided to give it a shot. So this follows this girl named, essentially you're following two love stories. You're following Emma and Jesse, who are high school sweethearts. They get married, and then Jesse goes on this business trip, and his helicopter crashes, and 3.5 years later he shows back up, and everyone thought that he was dead. So when he shows back up, Emma has a new life. She doesn't live in the same city that her and Jesse lived in. She's actually back home again in the same city, and she's running the bookstore that her family owns, and she's engaged to someone else. This was such a heartbreaking book. It's so beautiful and so heartbreaking because it's like you follow Emma and Jesse as they're falling in love, and then you get chapters from today about what happens when Jesse comes back. What does that mean for Emma and Sam? And honestly, I didn't know who I wanted Emma to be with, because like Jesse didn't do anything wrong. He just his survival story in here is just, again, heartbreaking and just devastating. And you slowly learn all the things that Jesse was going through while he was trying to get home to Emma. And then when he finally does get home to Emma, he finds out that she's engaged to another man, and it's such a like sticky situation all around, because it's like it took Emma so long, 2 years, to even consider dating someone else, and then she did, and her and Sam had this like whirlwind romance, and it was just like he kept saying, "Oh, I know I'm not your one true love, and I know that you had someone before me, and I'm okay with you still loving Jesse," and that like essentially he's the second choice, and it just broke my heart. And like honestly, if you want to sob a storm, and you honestly aren't really, I wasn't really rooting for either of them, because I thought that they were both such amazing, sweet guys, and it was just like, it was just a terrible situation to be in, and like I'm happy with the ending, but it's also so beautiful and so sad, and I don't think I would have been happy with anything. Like, I just think this whole book is just a master plan to make you cry your eyes out. Last night I fell asleep with listening to the audiobook, and I was like sobbing. I'm just like, my husband fell asleep, and I just was like, oh, I'm probably gonna finish this whole book, even though I have like 4 hours left of the audiobook. But no, I just fell asleep crying, you know, like just So if you want a good cry, if you like romance and sweet, tender stories, this is like truly like nothing else I've ever read. And I have no comparisons as to what I could even tell you. But it has like before and after chapters. So like the before chapters are Jesse and Emma falling in love, and then the after are Sam and Emma's story, and it's just, I highly, highly recommend this. I obviously gave it 5 stars. Probably, as of right now, we are like just over halfway through the month. This is my favorite book of the month so far, if I didn't make that clear. Wow. I think the last time I talked to you was on the 17th. That would make sense. That would have been Sunday. It is Saturday the 23rd. The reason I didn't update this vlog at all this week is because I was sick for, 4 days, but I went to school for 2 of them. I missed 2 days of work. I was like, it was bad. It's Saturday night, and my husband and I are going to a football game. Yes, you heard me right, a football game. I know it's not football season anymore, but I got 2 free tickets to a college game. I don't know. It's something. I got 2 free football tickets. Don't know how. I thought football season was over, but it's indoor football, so we'll see. We're gonna do that tonight, so I don't know if I'm gonna get much more reading done today, but let me update you on this past week of reading. I only have 4 books, which would make sense that I am now two books behind. Yeah, I have 3 physical books and 1 Kindle book. So let me talk about the Kindle book first. I read Say Yes by L. Kennedy. It was like a 60-page novella. I think it's a novella. It's about this girl named Amelia who is going back to her hometown for her best friend's wedding, and she decides to do this hookup app, and she hooks up with this guy and has one steamy night with him, and then she wakes up in the morning and goes to her best friend's wedding, and lo and behold, she's met the groom before. She met him the night before in the hotel room, at the bar and then the hotel room. And, it sounds like a terrible synopsis, and I legitimately can't tell you a single word more because it's like 60 pages, and I'm literally just telling you what my synopsis told me, so I'm not trying to give anything away. I just gotta tell you, it was one steamy ride of a book, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I've never read anything by L. Kennedy, and I really liked that one, so maybe I'll try something else of hers later. I also read a book by Avery Flynn. This is The Wedding Date Disaster by Avery Flynn. This follows this girl, Hadley, who is going back home for her sister's wedding. Wow, do I have, I'm so generic, I like all the same things. I gave this book 4 stars as well. But you follow Hadley, who is going to her sister's wedding, and she invites her best friend. He's a guy, but they're just friends. It's all platonic. She invites him, and she's like, please be kind of like a buffer between me and my family. Like, I'm either going to need you or drinks or both. Please come. We can, it's going to be like a fake dating situation where the family thinks that they're together, but they're really not. They're just best friends. Lo and behold, her bestie sends his twin brother, which is Hadley's, it refers to as the evil twin. So most of the book he's referred to as the evil twin. And it's very slow burn, and it's all, like, maybe it was fake at once, it's hate to love, and, like, there's, in this book, she's talking about, oh my god, nope, spoilers, sorry. This just made me so happy. I love hate to love romance, it's my favorite. And, like, there are some books that you can read and they say it's hate to love, but sometimes I don't understand the hate as much. I don't really know if this one is I know it's hate to love, but, like, to me it's kind of rivals to, I don't know. I guess it's hate to love, but I loved it. I read The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I buddy read this with Heather, and I think we read this in like 2 days. I really, really thought it would take a bit to get, going. But for me, part 1 of this book was so good. I was gripped. It was intense. I was ready to go. I wanted to get into this mystery thriller. Then part 2 happened, and it felt very slow and boring, and I didn't love part 2 as much as part 1. So I kind of felt like they were 2 different stories being written. I mean, in the end, it does come together really nicely, but for me, it was a little bit of too much of a wait to get to that ending spot. With that being said, I still gave this book 4 stars, and I still really enjoyed it. It's probably my least favorite Simone St. James, only because nothing is ever going to beat the Broken Girls. Two Broke Girls is the TV show I used to watch. The Broken Girls, Broken Girls, I don't know, that one. And then Sundown Motel was alright, but this one was fun. It was, so you follow Shel, who is a true crime blogger, and she gets the chance to interview this woman who was acquitted of murder in the 70s. So it's kind of dual timeline. You get what really happened in the 70s in this small town in Oregon, which, like, Pacific Northwest, like, that's my jam. So there's that. And then you also get the today's chapters of the interview and things like that. I did think that part 1 is more focused on the interview, and part 2 is kind of where you get all your answers and you kind of go back to the 70s. And I think she did a really good job of differing the different times, but I thought part 1 was stronger, that the present chapters was stronger because it was more atmospheric, it was more dark and mysterious, and that is what I love so much about Simone St. James, is that her writing tends to be very dark and atmospheric and a little mysterious, and her thrillers are always so much fun. So, with that being said, I still gave it 4 stars. I'm still going to keep it on my shelf for a long, long time, probably forever. The one that I finished today was The Golden Couple by Gare Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Okay, so in February, when this was a Book of the Month choice, I almost skipped because I did not like this author duo's last work, You Are Not Alone. I thought it was pure terribleness. And I'm sorry, okay? But I thought okay, I'll give this author duo another chance, even though it follows a wealthy couple, which is something that I absolutely hate, generally speaking, in books. So, you follow Marissa and Matthew, who are the golden couple. They are going to Avery, who is a therapist. But Avery's backstory, so you get Avery's chapters and then Marissa's chapters, and you get, they kind of go back and forth, and I went into this thinking that I wasn't going to like it, for one, and for two, that it was just going to be another therapist-patient type of story, and yeah, I wasn't excited. And a wealthy couple. But you know what? Despite all of those things, I loved this book. It's a 5 out of 5 stars. It's my new favorite Dear Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. So if you're watching my channel, you're back on top. I didn't like your last book, I'm sorry, but I love this book. Like they're watching this. But I absolutely loved this book. So I don't know how much I can really tell you about this without getting into spoilers. So I have never read this part, and I just did. So it does tell you which one of them is unfaithful. So they go to Avery, the therapist, because one of them is unfaithful, and they want to come clean in their marriage and get help to hopefully stay together. And Avery has just lost her therapist's license for reasons that you have to figure out on your own. And I didn't trust Avery at all. Some of the things that she did as a therapist were questionable at best. But she investigates her patients, and like the couples that came to see her, the golden couple, you know, she investigates them and kind of does some weird stuff, maybe going to talk to people that maybe she has no business talking to. And as you dig deeper into Matthew and Marissa and Avery, you learn maybe there's other things at play that you, as the reader, are unaware of. So I would say that this is kind of like half psychological thriller, or 3/4 psychological thriller, and with like a sprinkle of domestic thriller in there. And it's everything you are trying to read in a book right now. Like, pick this book up, please. It's so good, and no one is more surprised than me that I like this book. I love this book. I will shout it on the rooftop if I could get up there. But I live in an apartment, so up above me is just another apartment, and then another, and then the roof. But like, I love this book, so please, it's got the unexpected plot twists in here, and you don't know who to trust, and I love that. Like, I love going into a thriller and not knowing if everything I'm reading is a lie, or what parts are true, or who is even telling the truth, and what the heck is going on. And this was just a wild ride, and I'm just so happy that I read it. But I finished another book. So I finished The Wedding Proposal by John Squasner. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This was a full cast Audible original audiobook, and it's super duper sweet and super duper small. It was like 2 hours, so last night before the football game with the hubby, I listened to it while I was getting ready, and I listened to it from start to finish in like one sitting, because I think it's like a 2.5 hour audiobook if you listen to it at one speed, but I don't listen to my audiobooks that slow, so I kind of zoom through it. But essentially you follow this woman named Hannah whose fiance calls off the wedding at the very beginning. And you follow this other couple who is on the cusp of getting married. They just got engaged. They are madly in love, and Hannah decides to give her full paid for wedding, the whole shebang, to this other couple that you kind of follow. It's like Alex and I don't remember the other woman's name, but you're not really following them as much. It's more about Hannah and her journey through this. So her options were to cancel and get no refund, or basically gift her entire wedding to someone new. So that's what she did, because it was 2 weeks until the wedding, and her fiance is like, well, I don't want to marry the wrong person. And that starts this whole thing, and Hannah is partnered with Eric, the bride's brother, to go and finalize some details that they are going to make some last minute changes to this wedding. And it was just so sweet and so delicate, and it was actually very emotional and hard-hitting at the same time, and I just had so much fun. It was a really quick listen, but I enjoyed it a lot. It made me smile a lot, and it even made me cry a little bit. So I think it's a very cute, quick romance, kinda. I don't know. It's Monday, April 25th, and I have 2 more books to tell you about. So the first one is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is a classic. This is a pirate adventure, ahoy mateys type of classic. There's I don't know, it was honestly a whole lot of fun. So I'm probably going to give it 4 stars. It was exactly what I said. It's a pirate's adventure. I tend to really like adventure classics, and I really enjoyed going on this adventure. And then I finished Little Fires Everywhere by Celestine. I have been petrified to read this book, and I have put it off and put it off, and I actually owned a copy, and then I got rid of the copy, and then I finally got it again, and I finally read it. I don't understand the hype on this one. I honestly hated this book so much. So I'm going to give it 1 star. And I know that most people absolutely adore this book. Okay, so it is the morning of April 26th, and I have finished Archie Volume 2. I really enjoy reading these Archie comics. It's like visiting a old friend, and it's like I get a warm hug from each and every bind-up. So this one is volume 7, well it's volume 2, but episodes 7 through 12. So I really liked it. It's just, you know, it's got a nice little art style. And the writing, it's like an extra episode of Riverdale that I didn't know that I needed. So I am going to give Archie Volume 2 4 stars. And okay, so I saw you before work, and now it's almost bedtime. I finished These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. I think that's her name. I left my copy at school though, so I listened to the end of it on audiobook. So initially I was like, okay, you know, I'm enjoying this, I'm going to give it 4 stars. Then that ending. So, These Witches Don't Burn. Think The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page, but make it young adult and make it queer. And then you've got These Witches Don't Burn. If you are not new to my channel, then you know how much I adore this book. I absolutely love every second of The Ravens. I cannot push you to read another book more than I have pushed you to read The Ravens. So, I'm going to have to give These Witches Don't Burn 5 stars. It was a slow start, but almost perfection. I think if you like The Ravens, try this one. Or, because I do think The Ravens is the better version, to read These Witches Don't Burn. If you like These Witches Don't Burn, try The Ravens. This is like one of my all-time favorite books, and I won't shut up about it. But I definitely got some of the Raven vibes from These Witches Don't Burn, or Won't Burn. These Witches Won't Burn. I highly, highly recommend it. It is the 27th of April, which means it's the first day of Spring Fling-a-ween. Spring Fling-a-ween. I was low-key trying to participate in it this year, so I finished on the first day of Spring Fling-a-ween. I finished Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. One of the prompts, if you were to go by the prompts, was to read a book with pink or yellow on the cover. This is a thriller with pink on the cover. I hated this book. I absolutely hated this book, which is weird because it reminds me of Bunny by Mona Awad, and I loved Bunny by Mona Awad. I gave it like 4 stars, but I got to take my time with Bunny. It took me like 3 months to finish Bunny. So, Catherine House, I don't even know how to describe it. I thought it was Dark Academia. Is it Dark Academia? I don't know. It's about this higher education place called Catherine House, and it's about the things that happen at Catherine House. But it's not about the people there. It's about Catherine House. So yeah, I don't know, maybe if I would have been able to take my time with this and really read it for what it is, maybe I would have loved it. Because I really do see Bunny in this. And then there's even a part of this, there's a character in this named Bunny who, there's just some weird stuff with the bunny and a character named Bunny, and it is very, very reminiscent of Mona Awad. I don't know why I didn't like this one. I honestly think it was a timing thing. Like, I didn't give myself the time to really digest it and love it for what it did. I thought it was a thriller, but I don't really think it's a thriller. It's just a synopsis on Catherine House and about Catherine House, and they quite literally talk about Catherine as if Catherine were a character in the book. I felt like Catherine was a character. I don't know. I just didn't get it. I didn't love it. I'm gonna give it 1 star. Okay, editing Alita here. So I just finished editing most of this video, and it is May 1st as I'm talking to you. So there was one clip in which my microphone wasn't working. Maybe I forgot to turn it on, or maybe it just stopped working for a moment. Maybe it was dead and I didn't charge it, because I have a tendency to do that. Anyway, there were 2 books that I read for Spring Fling-A-Ween, which is a readathon that Gabby and Olivia put on every single season, it seems. It's like a Halloween-inspired readathon. So I read 2 horror books for this readathon. I read The Cheerleader by Caroline B. Cooney. This is the one that I picked for the prompt of read a backlist title. This I didn't know a whole lot about it. I just thought it was like about wanting to be a popular cheerleader and basically stalking the cheerleader and trying to become her. That is not what this is. This is a vampire book that has to do with a cheerleader, and I didn't like this book. I gave it 1 star. It will be unhauled. And then I read Alone by Sin Balog. This, I don't know. I didn't hate this, but I didn't really like it either. I kind of feel lukewarm about it. I think I gave it 3 stars, but looking back, I would rather give it 2 stars. It's just like, whatever. But it's like this haunted house scavenger hunt game. So, Sadea's mom she renovates old houses, and this time they're in like Chicago, I think. I don't remember. And she wants to stay, and Sadea doesn't want to. She just is like, no, it's time to go, let's go. And then her mom's like, fine, let me have one last shindig. And there's, so her mom invites all of her friends to this haunted mansion that they live in and that they are trying to renovate and sell. And then there's some kind of like scavenger hunt game, and it's supposed to be like a young adult horror, and I guess I get those vibes, but I didn't love it ultimately. It was just kind of whatever. I couldn't care less about it. Ooh, wow. Okay, now I'm going to shoot it back to Alita from the 30th of April, and then she will wrap this vlog up. Okay, so if you couldn't see that, my phone says that it is approximately 10 o'clock at night on April 30th. I have 3 more books to talk about, and I am 90% sure that I've read 30 books this month. So, let me talk about the 3 books that I finished since I last saw you. Last night, I read a Kindle book. I read A Secret One by Alpha Romig. I'm very sorry if I mispronounced that. This was like a 60 or 70 page novella, and I guess it's number 1.5 in a series, but I've never read that series, and I felt like I was like okay reading it even without prior knowledge of the series. But you follow this woman who is the bridesmaid at her best friend's wedding, and she ends up waking up the day of the wedding after having a one-night stand with the groom's brother. And I can't really tell you anything else because it's like 70 pages. I think it's even less than 70 pages. So it's a real quick read, and it was really fun. I think I gave it 5 stars. I did. I gave it 5 stars. It was so much fun because you were kind of getting to know the character as she was trying to figure out what happened the night before, because she was super drunk and she doesn't remember, and as her memory starts coming back, it was just a whole lot of fun. Then I listened to an Audible original. I listened to Sleeping Dogs Lie by Samantha Downing. So I am the unpopular opinion here. I didn't really like My Lovely Wife by this author, but I came across her Audible original. It was very short, and honestly, the last couple books that I picked, I was just trying to get my 30 books. This was like a 2.5 hour audiobook if you listen to it at regular speed, which I don't typically, but it was so good. I was pleasantly surprised that I loved this little novella, mystery thriller novella. So you follow this dog walker who goes to pick up one of her dogs, and she finds that the owner of the dog is not alive, and you don't know if it was murder or if it was natural causes, and you kind of just get the whole investigation into the death of this person. And yeah, it was twisted and dark, and that's why I liked it a lot. So I gave it 4 stars, which is a very good. Oh, okay, I gave it 3 stars. It's probably like a 3 or 3.5, but I enjoyed it. It was twisted, and I didn't really see it coming, but I feel like maybe if Samantha Downing would have wrote it a little bit better, like, you know, done a little bit more with the characters and gotten a lot of character growth and maybe more atmospheric in the writing, I would have loved it more. But I did really enjoy it. It was a quick read, quick listen. And then I read Out of the Fire by Andrea Cumtos. This was blurbed by an author that I like, and so chilling and utterly original, Out of the Fire is a fierce hold-no-punches revenge tale as only Cumtos could tell it. Kit Frick, author of I Killed Zoe Sopranos. And I completely agree. This is a revenge story. It's a young adult thriller with a revenge plot and vengeance and ashes to ashes, and you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But let's see. We were like fire, the four of us, catching each other's sparks until the flames grew, spread, raged beyond our control. We may be temporarily broken, but we leave them forever charred. So these four girls make this pact that they are going to help each other get revenge and vengeance for different things in each of these girls' lives. Like there might be some a relationship where they are not together anymore, but he was very abusive during the time that they were together, so maybe they're gonna get revenge on him for being a terrible person. And then you kind of get flung into this like mystery thriller of what each girl is going through or was going through and why they are seeking out revenge. And you know what? I kind of was low-key rooting for the bad guy, the bad girls. The ones that were seeking out revenge. Like, it was much deserved. And I just loved it. And by the end, it had me at the edge of my seat. I'm probably going to keep this on my shelves for a while. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it. So I did it! I read 30 books in 30 days, and it was funny because I was behind the whole time. And yeah, I did kind of cram a couple of smaller, quicker reads on there, but I don't think that's cheating. I just think I was working with what I have. So thank you so much for watching this video with me. Don't forget to like this video and go down there and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content from me. Also, little side note, I'm like so excited. I just ordered a new camera because I don't know if you're watching this, then you've seen how bad it kind of glitches and my lens keeps popping out of my camera. And honestly, I've had this camera for a while and it did me good. It was like $200 and it's been good for like 2 years, but it's time to upgrade. So I do have an upgrade coming, so very, very, very soon you should see like a bump in content, or like in quality, maybe not content, but quality, like a little bumperoo. So that's going to be fun, and if you don't want to miss it, please subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and cut it off here because I feel like this is going to be an extra long video. I mean, we read 30 books in 30 days. That is so crazy to me. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Bye!